Quilts come in basically two formats. You have the pieced and you have the applique. So in any given time period, in any location, the quilts that survive will either be pieced or they'll be applique. Many of our quilts from Maryland and Virginia in the period that we're studying in this exhibit happen to be pieced quilts. Pieced quilt is a patchwork quilt, as we often think of it, and it's where you have taken pieces that you have cut out of a fabric in various shapes, and you sew them together and you make whatever design it is that you want. The hexagon style, or you make stars, all kinds of different things can be made, often with the very basic shapes of triangles, squares, and hexagons. Aside from the beautiful pieced designs, in the white areas in between the motifs, many of these quilts have some really beautiful quilting stitches. This is the earliest pieced quilt in the exhibit, and it was made by Ludwell Goosley and her daughters. So that speaks to our theme of how a lot of these were communal quilting projects. It's also typical of this region in that it's a framed medallion, which was the most popular layout for both pieced and applique quilts at the time. But particularly typical of Maryland and Virginia is to take some of those squares and put them on point, that is, put them at an angle, and alternate that with regular squares. And what you see are a number of very handsome furnishing chintzes, that is, fabrics that were intended for home furnishings, and then alternating with these beautiful, exquisitely stuffed and quilted areas here where you have grapes and carnations and other flowers in the white areas. So it's really an extraordinarily skilled and handsome example of early quilting. We have a lot of different designs, starting with the early 19th century framed medallion format that start with a small square center and radiate outwards with a series of pieced borders. Then we have a lot of 8-pointed star designs, which would have been called mathematical star back then. Now we more commonly know them as Bethlehem star or Lone Star. We also have a hexagonal quilt made on the Eastern Shore in 1840, and we also have a quilt mostly made of over 3,500 triangles made by Mary Taylor Lloyd Key, the wife of Francis Scott Key, who composed the Star-Spangled Banner. She made this in the 1840s, many years after the Star-Spangled Banner, but it was in fact made by her, and it's an extraordinary piece of stitching.